we find, the reason we do this is we find that, and there's some more research been done on this recently actually, that the internal reward system in the individual with ADHD is a little bit off, so that things where you or I, or if you don't have ADHD, might find internally gratifying, and that's enough to motivate us, it's not working effectively for them. So those external rewards is what helps them, just gives them a little bit extra, something to shoot for.
And one more question about the model. Was that somebody developed that in their dissertation or thesis, do you know?
It was originally done in a master's thesis, so this was kind of expanding upon that study. So, anyway, I'm not going to explain each one of these, but just highlight a couple. Application is just some general information. Coaching topic survey was also developed in the original case study, and this is a survey. It's a Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 5, and it has a variety of topics that one might possibly want to work on. And the client is rating from 1 to 5, is this something I really need to work on? Or is this something that I don't need to work on because either I've got a handle on it or it's just not a priority in my life? And it includes all sorts of things, from school to laundry to making friends to even self-advocacy, which is something important that a lot of clients don't think of. And then we have our sheets, as I explained, the goal-setting sheets, the weekly objective sheets. And the learning and study strategies inventory was actually our empirical measure of the effectiveness of coaching. So it wasn't all qualitative. This was actually, it has a variety of things like studying, and I'll show you a little bit more information about that later. But that gave us a little bit more information about the effectiveness. So the results. Okay, I'm going to start with some graphs and charts and hopefully explain them well enough, and then kind of go into a little bit more of a discussion about these results and what they mean. This is the Lassie. I will read you, just so you can get an idea. On the bottom here, what you're seeing are the scales of the Lassie. And then we have one graph for each client. And then on the left-hand side, what you see going vertically is percentile rankings. So this is where they fell in terms of percentile. And I'll explain this more. Okay, so anxiety is the first one that you see up there. This is anxiety and worry about school performance. And the two lines, sorry, I didn't explain that. The two lines are, the triangles are the pre-test, where they fell in the pre-test. And then the squares are the post-test. So this is showing, basically if you see a square higher than a triangle, that's showing improvement. That's the general outcome. But some highlights of this. Excuse me, sorry, so they don't have increased anxiety? No.
Oh, no. It looked like it was the opposite.
Right, yeah. No, this is, I can't remember the exact question, but it would be, I feel less anxiety, meaning in a sense that I feel improved. This is, if they're at 100%, that means that they're anxiety-free. Okay, so anxiety and worry about school performance, so it'd be I don't have any of that, or I have a lot. Attitude and interest, concentration and attention to academic tasks. INP is information processing, acquiring knowledge and reasoning. Motivation, diligence, self-discipline, and willingness to work hard is the MOT. SFT is self-testing, reviewing, and preparing for classes. SMI is selecting main ideas and recognizing important information. STA is use of support techniques and materials. TMT is use of time management principles. And TST is test strategies and preparing for tests. So that's the first three. I'm just going to show you the next three. And it's just some highlights, overall general highlights of the 6 participants that completed the process. If you hear me saying 6, if you remember I originally said 7, it's because we had one client not complete the coaching process. Good example of some clients' impulsivity to get going, and then just as impulsive to drop out. So that was an important finding as well. So all the 6 participants that completed the coaching process improved on at least 6 of the 10 scales on the Lassie. and 2 of them actually showed improvement on all 10. 5 of the 6 participants scored in the 75th percentile on one or more scale during the post-test, which they previously had not shown in the pre-test. And above 75% indicates an area of relative strength, according to the Lassie. Okay, this one's a little bit simpler to understand. This is goals and objectives, and here you can see the names of the clients below, and then you can see that the kind of dot bar graphs are long-term goals that were met, and then the solid is long-term goals that were not met. For this one, 4 of the 6 who completed the process met all of their long-term goals, as you can see. Another met all but 1. And importantly here, you'll see that Aziz, this was the client who was diagnosed with bipolar. And I don't want to suggest that a client with bipolar cannot benefit from coaching, because I've actually worked with a lot that do. But in his case, the pathology was too extreme and it just went too deep that he was not a good client for coaching. He needed therapy. And so this is a really good example of kind of where that line is.
Excuse me, could you explain Elizabeth? Did Elizabeth just have one long-term goal?
She just had one, and yeah, that's a good point. What we find is that, in fact, 4 is a little high, but because you can see she met them all, I kind of gauged it, you know, where was this person, is she capable of this? But what I usually suggest is around 2 or 3. We just find that that's the most manageable.
Especially in 8 weeks.
Yeah, and this was kind of a condensed version. Yeah.
So that was my question on the timing. Long-term goal was defined as something that you wanted to achieve within 8 weeks?
Not necessarily. They could go beyond, but we wanted something that could be measured at the 8-week point. So let's say you, and that was actually a recommendation people made, was to time it with the end of a school semester or something like that. So it could be more about doing well in a class throughout the duration of the semester, but we wanted to be able to measure at those 8 weeks, were they on that track?
What were examples of the goals?
Examples of the goals were, and actually the video would be great for this, but I'll talk a little bit about it because I
can try, but I don't
well, we're not going to do it yet, but we may have it. But I'll just tell you really briefly. In this case, some examples of goals would be getting a particular grade in a class, or eating a certain amount of healthy foods per week, or exercising a certain amount of time per week. One of the things I talk about in the video is, and that I actually learned from this, is I actually don't like goals like getting an A in a class now, because they're outcome-based. And a child or adult can do everything that they possibly can to try to get that A. They can do all their assignments, work really hard, and sometimes you just get a bad grade on a test, or you have a teacher that, you know, doesn't want to give an A. So you won't meet that goal, and that's disappointing. So now what I suggest rather than that is a process-based goal, where it's based on your behavior throughout the process rather than what you get out of it. So it would be more like creating a schedule of studying and maintaining and sticking to that schedule throughout the process, because that you can do that. So does that answer your question?
Well then, okay, so if you set a goal, did you have anyone who set a goal like that, or they set a goal that they were going to have a schedule that they stuck to and study?
Mm-hmm.
How do they measure, what kind of data do they collect to show you that they met that goal?
Well, we can say, okay, well, we have your planner here. We wrote all the times you were supposed to study, when you were supposed to do your work, and every week we're looking at, okay, did you follow through with that? And so it's there on paper.